Hey, what's up, dudes? Alright, tried to start the stream. It was saying forbidden. I don't know why. It does that sometimes. You just have to retry it a few times, I guess. Okay, let's restart our extensions for PyLance because PyLance is very good. It helps with, what exactly is PyLance? I know like it's autocomplete maybe, type checking. Rich type information, help me write code faster. I get the Python versus PyLance mixed up. Honestly, I'm not sure which is the one that like really helps me, but anyway, it's not that important. The important thing is that we have both of them activated. Okay, so let's go ahead and start our timer. We're going to try to get some work done a little earlier today. I went to work, got off, took a shower, ate, took care of a couple things, and now we're ready to get, we're going to do at least 2 hours today. So I already like have to, because I've been doing 1 hour, 1 hour, 1.5. It's not cutting it, you know. It's I have been sick though, so it definitely has like been holding me down. I still don't feel right. It just like lowers my energy. I guess my immune system is fighting against it, so it's making me just tired in general. And yeah, it's like brain fog, not very energetic, like good stuff. Anyway, let's pick up where we left off yesterday. Yesterday we did one task. We continued population of the database master save object list by going through each file to determine which data points need to be saved. We stopped at line 49 and things to do, so let's go over there. Alright, so here we go. We left off right here, received cal tube list. So this is in client, that's what we were going through. And see if the stream is working. I got these other two. Alright, there we go. That's because of the first two attempts, it didn't work, and so it creates an upcoming stream. It's just like not optimized. Okay, there it is. Looks like it's working. It takes a little bit to get everything set up, you know. Let's see if the audio is working. I have trouble with my audio sometimes. Yep, it's working. Yep, there it is. Okay, cool. Alright, back to it. Alright, so client Pi, we have received cal tube list. Let's go ahead and copy that. We're going to go over here, do F. Paste it in. Ooh, and that's the only. Wait a second. Something is. How does that work? Hold up. If length of current client receive got to is greater than 0. Ah, okay. So it's not receive. It's supposed to be received. I had a typo here. There we go. See, one letter can make all the difference. Bro, I gotta say this. So I work for UPS, and so we have, well, it's a union job. the Teamsters. So we had a union guy outside today, and he had like his little desk set up, and when everyone was getting off pre-shift, that is, which is what I work, and they were trying to raise money to get extra contributions from Teamsters, aka us, like the members, to fight against UPS implementing automated systems and, like, you know, robots. And they had pictures and all this of like the technology that they're using, and I'm just like, man, first of all, I really can't afford very much right now because UPS don't pay me that much. Secondly, you can't stop this. You know, like when cars came out, they didn't have people that what do you call them, farriers or whatever, farriers, the people that like took care of horses and stuff. They had to find new work because they have cars now. So it's like, that's how it is. I'm not gonna like try to pay money to lobby against the advancement of humanity. Like, you can't stop it, you know. Are we gonna get screwed over in the long run? Like, yeah, probably. You know, it's probably gonna be, I don't know. It depends. But yeah, it was kind of strange times to be living in. We're going to be getting replaced by robots soon, so I don't know if they'll be able to load the truck like I load the truck. I don't know, man. I guess maybe they can. We'll see. Technology is amazing, so it's possible, I suppose. Why do I hear myself? Oh, I had my shit in the background, so it was doubled. Let me see something real quick. Let's make sure that I want to see if that was like doubled up. No, it's not. It's all good. Okay. I had it open in the background, I didn't realize. Alright, here we go. So, received Caltuplus, we search for this. Control C, Control F, Control... Well, we don't need Control V, it's already there. And the received Caltuplus is a list to hold all of the received change attribute list tuples from both clients to sort them via timestamp and counter for eventual application. Having this as an adder helps if we implement perfect save system for ease of access assignment. Yeah, so like we can delete this last part of this comment, honestly. Okay, so that's what it is. I'm pretty familiar with this list. I mean, I'm the one who created it. Wait, we have 2 of these? Okay, so I just like made a boo-boo here and I created it twice. Same thing. Received Caltuplus. Received Caltuplus. So this one is 710. I must have revised it. It's compilation. Which comment do I like better? Is a compilation of list of all received change attribute lists tuple elements. It is structured exactly the same as the current client change attribute list, except we add as a final element to each tuple the sender ID for later dir check assignment. Consists of tuples timestamp, dir string, adder name for the purpose of storing received data. Should be ordered. Well, actually, I think that has changed since then. It might not be. It might still be the same. I'm just gonna go ahead and go with the later one. It's not like critical, the comment, you know. Continue in here. Alright. So here we're getting to... So this received Caltuplus, this is a pending. And as you can see, there's a lot more now than what we had in that comment. There's a lot of different things that get added to it. Appends each entry of the received change attribute list to the received Caltuplus in the form of that, all that stuff. Muy importante, very important thing. Okay, so I'm kind of overlooking this, but I think this may need to be saved because let's see how this works. So we have the receive change attribute list. This is what we received from the other side, in this case the server. They sent us this data. Let's see, where do we actually get this receive change attribute list at? For tube and current client that receive change attribute list. So as I understand this, what's supposed to be happening is that we're receiving data and then we're iterating through the received data, but I don't see where we assign. Wait, no, this is a sending. This is sending out a receive verification. Okay. Here we go. Gotcha. Okay. I was looking at the wrong spot. So this is the receive section. We start off with received data, and then we kind of do a little bit of hot potato with it, and we convert it to... let's see. Okay, now this is where we get the receive change attribute list, and it is the core data from the data that was received. So we have our core data. Core data, if it is a list, that means we're receiving a change attribute list. In that case, we then convert the core data over to the current client receive change attribute list, and then we will begin iteration through that list, and we transfer all of that data over to this received CalTube list, and that's the one that we are dealing with. So this is anything that gets received ends up here. Then we sort it. Alright, so now I can go back to looking at this since I got caught up, and then we do current client receive CalTube list sort, blah blah blah. That's old. So if this is the application section where we start applying received data after we sort it. So if the length of this list is greater than 0, we create an apply list and we begin applying the data in the received CalTube list. Now the question is going to be, do we apply every single object in the list that we're dealing with per while loop iteration, or is like there data that remains inside of it from while loop to while loop? And I would like to say that there is data that remains in it. It doesn't like get created, modified, used, and then basically thrown away each while loop. It is something that persists among many while loop iterations. And if I understand correctly, because let's see, so we iterate through the CalTube list, we apply, append it to the apply list, but this is only if it meets certain criteria, like if the counter, the apply counter of the data matches the expect counter, all this stuff. And then we begin iteration through the apply list. Okay, so I'm up to speed. My question now is, do we like is it emptied by the time this while loop is over? So we do remove each item that was added to the apply list. We remove it from this list, but we don't clear it. And I'm assuming, and I think I remember, like, there's a reason we don't clear it. Reviewed and verified this is a proper object reference. Removing from the index 0 is proper. Deletes the current iteration from the order list since data has now been applied. TLDR, have to use remove because receive calculate list is no 1-1 exact match to apply list. Have to use remove since we can't assume a static index, because we can't assume a static index because not every element in the receive calculate list gets applied in order. This would be required to use that method due to possible mismatching with apply counter versus expect counter. Right. And sometimes we do get data out of order, like because of packet sizes and stuff. We might receive the data number 3 before we get data number 1, just because data number 1 had a lot of data in it. Data number 3 was faster on the server side because of multi-threading and stuff, and it was able to get sent before number 1 was finished. And that means we would receive 3, then maybe 2, then, or let's just say 3, then 1, then 2. Now in that case, we would receive 3. Let's just say this while loop, we only receive 3 and 1. Well, if we did, then we wouldn't be able to apply number 3 yet because we're still waiting on number 2. Does this make sense? So that number 3 data would still remain in the received cal tuplus, and it would stay there to the next while loop iteration. And then on that next iteration, let's say we receive number 2, now we would apply 2 and 3. But if we were to clear that list, or to not save the data each iteration, then we would, in that case, if we disconnected, we would lose that number 3, and when we reconnected, it would be gone because it would just be an empty list at that point. So we do need to save this, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty certain. I have to use your, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be a yes. We need to do that. Okay, next one is going to be received changed attribute list. Let's copy that, go over here, paste it in, and we'll go all the way up to the tippity top here and see what we receive. So this is directly related to the one we just worked on. It is like the predecessor. The only reason we have this separate from the one we just worked on is because of the fact that we add more stuff to the received cal tuplus, like on top of the data that gets received, and I wanted to make sure we like separated those objects, you know. So whenever we receive the data, we get it in the form of the core data, and we then just reassign that core data to the current client's received change attribute list. And then, well, that's just a log, we don't have to worry about that. Now we iterate through this received change attribute list, and we add everything to it. So basically, if we receive it, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, if we receive it, then we add everything from it to the received cal tuplist. So I'm guessing then eventually we clear it. So we set it to reset instead of clear. Now, does this happen every time though? That's the question. Let's see. This is if. So this is if we receive, we get the received change attribute list, we iterate through it, adding all the data to the received cal tuplist, and then so we do purge it at the end of this process. Associated received change attribute list equals proper received data storage dict. Huh. Okay, so this right here, I'm not so sure about. Why do we call this the associated received change attribute list? Proper received data storage dict. Add send ID, add to. Refers to change attribute list in received data tuple. Okay. Okay, so this is grabbing a change attribute list that had been received previously, and we're removing from it the tuple since we have applied the data. Okay, so this is correct code, I think. This is just a different, doesn't have to really do with the actual object we're dealing with. So this is going to be no, we don't need to save this one because it is like it is all handled within one while loop iteration. So the answer is no here. Cool. Okay, next one is going to be received data. Let's paste that. Alright. Should we just do dot received data? Yeah, I think that will narrow it down to the object we're dealing with, because we use that namespace in the context of other objects as well. So current client received data is equal to nReceive. Okay. So this is just the data that gets received over the network in its rawest form. And then we reset it at the end of each while loop iteration. So I think that we'll say no to this one as well. Now, this is one of those cases where we might have to worry about the fact that we have sent data and then from the server to the client, but the client disconnects before it can actually receive the data. But the server doesn't know that. So the server's like, hey, I already sent that to you. So if that process gets interrupted, we're just going to have special logic for reconnecting on the client side to see, hey, do we actually have all the data that the server sent to us, or does the server need to resend something that got lost in the network buffer, or just like whatever didn't get saved, it's just lost. So this we would have to be concerned to restore the received data in the case it was lost, but as far as having to save the attribute, the answer to that is no, we don't need to save it. And it's just because of the way that we have the checkpoint structured. Just one per while loop. Nice and safe, nice and easy. No need to complicate it any more than that. So the received time, this is used. Okay, if the type of coordinate is I think we add this for the data application buffer. Didn't we remove the application buffer? I know we went back and forth on that. I can't remember, honestly. It's been a while. I can't remember, but it's something that we reset. So this is going to be the same as the last two. I'll go ahead and say we're not going to need to save that. Whether or not we actually need that, like in the code at all, that's a different story. I will leave that for another time. So this will just put dot change attribute list because it is the attribute, should narrow down our search. So this is comment says did a review and I'm 99% sure we don't need, leaving until I'm 100% sure. The list which is sent over the network as part of the client object is a direct copy of the associated standalone change attribute list directly prior to send call, consists of tuples, is cleared and repopulated each send cycle. It's cleared and repopulated each send cycle. Okay, right. So whenever we change data on the client side, the data ends up here in this changed attribute list. And that's what gets sent to the server. Let's see here what we got. If current client ID is equal to 1, if length of, so this is in the send section. If the length of the C1 change attribute is greater than 0, then we assign that to this namespace to be a variable. So we can have one set of code instead of two sets, and then we check the length of it. Okay. So if the length of it is greater than 0, then we send this data over the network. And then we clear it. Clears everything that was sent to the network from the current client. So honestly, we could, well, I don't want to set it to none. I may add a note here that to like clear memory, we would set it basically to none. But I think that's being a little extra. I don't think we're that like hard up on memory usage to where we need to set a list to none from an empty list. I think just having it cleared is good enough. Yeah, so I'll say that we don't actually need this to be saved. It is a once handled per while loop iteration object. Now we have the do not send adder bool. I'm almost certain we're not going to need this one. A Boolean switch set to equal true upon being checked after send dir check triggers the removal of the proposed data change from the associated changed attribute list. Okay. I don't know. Remove code associated with do not send adder bool. So apparently we don't use this anymore. Is this a dead object? Let's see. Yeah, it's not used anymore. That's all irrelevant stuff. Just these 3 instances. And that's the 3 that we just looked at. So we actually don't even use this anymore, which is cool. You know, my favorite thing to do is to get rid of dead code. So there it goes. Getting rid of it. Goodbye. Apparently we don't even check it, so I don't think I need to remove code that's associated with it here, because if we're not checking it, then there is no associated code with it. I think. Okay. So do not send adder bool. It doesn't exist anymore. Knock that one off the list. Now we have received cal 2 plus. Okay, so we doubled that one because we accidentally had it twice. We went ahead and fixed that. We only have one of them actually. And now we have the save file offset dictionary, and this isn't used anymore. I think this is a dead object. Let's go ahead and see. That's old stuff. Yep, so we only have these 2 instances of it, so this is actually something that can get removed. That was for when we first started our save system. We thought we were going to use JSON or whatever, or pickle, and we were like using the offset to determine the location in the file. And we have since changed over to SQLite from using just straight up pickle. Alright, soft disconnect. This is set to false initially, which enables database setup code to be run at the beginning of this script. In the case of a soft disconnect, we wouldn't want it to run again since the script didn't crash. Therefore, data is already applied, so in the except clause of main while loop, it sets this adder to true and sets back to false at beginning of subsequent main while loop start. For hard DC, we would want this DB setup code to be run again, which would happen naturally as this adder is defaultly set to false. I mostly understand that. So we set it to false, only runs this if first time running or after hard DC. Okay, well, so it starts off as false, right? Default. Yeah, so initially it's set to false. So the first time we run it, okay, I understand. It runs this database save setup function, and I'm guessing it changes it to true within that function. And that will make sure that whenever we reconnect from a soft DC, when it encounters this, it will bypass the setup because it has already been run. It doesn't need to run it again. And then we set it to false in the main while loop. Resets the adder bool back to false. And then we set it to true when you encounter a game crash error, soft DC. This will avoid triggering the preliminary database setup code at the beginning of outer while loop, since in case of soft disconnect, we don't need it to be run again. Okay. So this is changed in the case of an exception, but one that doesn't cause the game to crash. It's a soft crash. And this is in the context of the outer while loop, or is this in the context of the main while loop? Try, and is that the except associated with it? This try except is, so let's see. This is a try except for when we encounter game crashing errors or soft DC. So this is the main while loop. I'm trying to understand whether or not we need to save this. So it starts off as false, and it only gets set to true in the case of an exception in the main while loop. So if we hit an exception and it changes it to true, and then we actually have a hard disconnect, well, we actually wouldn't want to load that, because then, like, I don't think we need to save this one. This one is, what's the word? Like, it's derivative. It is derived from other actions and is not truly variable in the sense of like how we would say other variables are variable. This one is a little bit more complicated though, because like this could be one of those things that causes a very confusing bug if we didn't handle it correctly. But I'm pretty sure, like, I feel safe in saying that based on it only occurs 6 times. It's initially set to false. It's checked. It's set to false, but this is really only in the case where it has already hit an exception and then started back again. So I'll say we don't need to save this one. This is going to be a no. I think saving that one actually could cause a bug because it's just not meant to be saved. It's a different type of variable. Alright, so we're done with the client file. That was the last one. What we're going to do now is we're going to go through and add all of the new yeses to the list. So let's see, what do we have? We have the C1 and C2 expect counter as yes. So let's go ahead and add that. We can just copy that over and then do C2. And then we have these received data storage dictionaries. And these are all going to be yeses. So I'll just copy and paste this and we'll make 2, 3, 4 of them. C1 to C1, C1 to C2, C2 to C1, and C2 to C2. Alright. Then we have received cal tuplus is a yes. So let's go ahead and paste that one in. And then we have, that's it. Let's just make sure. So we have no, no, yes, yes for the expect counters. And then the 4 received data storage dictionaries, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. And then we have the receive cal tup list is the only other yes. And that looks to be correct. Alright, so we're done with that one. Now we're on to the next file, which is going to be custom append list. So let's go up here, open up this file, and let's bring it over here so we can go ahead and determine which things need to be saved. So let's make our list here. So we have card group name is going to be our first one. I will just copy these. I can basically just do this. Paste that in. We can do this cool little trick to get rid of this extra comment. Get rid of this cursor, keep the other ones, and then backspace that. Bam. And go down here, get rid of those. There we go. And then we need to add in this. So we'll do another little magic trick there. Alright. Alright, so we have those added. Those are attributes. We have card group dictionary, or card group name dictionary. Okay. Oh, we already had that one added, sorry. Meld group name tube. Well, you should already have these, because I just copied them. Meld group name tube. Skeleton list tube. That one is already there. What else we got? Ref list tube. Right. Then we have the ID. So we need to add this one. Well, actually, those were class attributes. These are instance attributes. So these are different. And then card group name. So let me separate this into instance adders. And then this is going to be class adders. This is going to be changed to current, since the one we're working on. And now we have player. And that's it. These are properties which are calculated, so they're already derivative. Then we have our methods here, which are not gonna, like, we're not gonna have to worry about those because they have everything that they need derivatively. So that should be it. This should be an easy one. So let's start at the top here. So we have the card group name. Hold up a second. Did I miss? Card group name is not actually a class attribute. That's wrong. Card group name dict, that is a class adder. Changed attribute list, that is an instance attribute, I believe. Well, actually, I don't think we use this. Not directly, anyway. So this is considered an attribute. So maybe it used to be an attribute. I guess at one point it was, but it looks to me like that is actually not true any longer. So what we can do here is we can get rid of this completely. It's not an attribute, actually. So then we can get rid of it here as well. Then we have meld group name tube. That is a class adder. We have player. That is actually an instance adder. We forgot to put our question marks. And then ref list tube. That is a class adder. the instance adders are ID, card group name, and player. And that's it. Cool. So it's just these, what, 7? Okay, so card group name dictionary. Do we need to save it? Well, I don't think we need to save this because it is just it is a reference that is updated. Like, let's see if we can find it and we can verify this. So in card group property, we check to see if this card group name is in this dictionary. And if it is, then we say the card group is equal to that object. Calculates the card group. Like, what do we use that for? So that's a property. So it's his derivative, the card group. If self is in self card group. So this is just accessing it. This has nothing to do. There we go. So this is where we set it. So it is set through append. That happens in the context of a while loop. So like basically, okay, this one might be tricky. For instance, although we do set it in the context of the while loop, if we were to have a hard disconnect, when we load it back in, it would default back to the original form of the card groups, which this would probably almost certainly be before we actually fixed the card groups. So this, I think, would probably be a false reference. Like, it would refer to the original deck with all whatever, I can't even remember how many cards are in the deck anymore, 108. And there would be nothing in the hand, there would be nothing in the pre-sort, it wouldn't retain the saved data, because this would be, whenever we ran setup, it would recreate these card groups by instantiating these custom append list instances, and that would refer to these empty deck, these original card groups. So like, if we didn't save that data and subsequently load it in after setup, then this would be like wrong. So in the case that we loaded it in, didn't save it, or rather the case that we didn't save it, disconnected, reconnected, and then tried to continue the game as normal, if this property ended up getting checked, this card group, this would be an errant value. This would be bugged code. It would return not the correct card group. Does this make sense? So then if we went over here to append, it would check to see if the card, or if the self here refers to the actual list. So if the self was in the card group, if the self was in the self card group, that's a little bit confusing. Grabs card group via card group name dict. If the self was in the self card group. Okay. Add in logic to detect whether or not the item being appended is a card or a custom append list. Also added in logic to determine if the items inside that meld are cards or other melds and convert them to skeleton format. Iterates through the item, extracts the IDs from the cards if they are cards, but iterates through them again if they are an inner meld, doing the same to that meld. Finally appends the copied list to the proper change attribute list via data transfer function. So it's checking to see if the list is in the card group. That's a little bit confusing to me. I guess this is for a meld group, and it's checking to see if that meld is in the meld group. I think that's essentially what that's saying. And in the case that I described, this would return a faulty value. So it would actually be in the card group, the real one, but since we didn't load, save/load that data, then it would be errant. So I'm pretty certain we will have to save this data. Yeah, I think so. And just as a note, I think, wouldn't we also need to save the prior card group name and the prior meld num? We said no because that's derivative. And then we said no to prior meld num. Well, prior meld num not equal to none if item prior card name is in self. Meld num equals item dot prior meld num. Well, I know that we said this was derivative. We say here that the prior card group name is derivative. But although that may be true, it is only derived one time. Like, if you were to disconnect and then load it back in, like the prior card group name happens at a particular point in time and needs to be preserved until it is handled again. If you were to set it at a point in time and then disconnect and then reconnect and use the default prior card group name, which is what it would have, like it wouldn't reassign that because you're not gonna repop it from whatever card group it was in. Therefore, it would have to be saved and restored. If you didn't do that, then you would end up with a default prior card group name which would be just none, and that would cause a nasty, hard to find bug, an ugly bug. So I think actually we do need to save the prior card group name. But this is specifically referring to custom append lists, not referring to cards. So that would mean the prior card group name would be here, but we don't have it listed. Why don't we have it listed if it is in existence? So the answer to card group name dict needing to be restored, this is going to be a yes, and we're also going to put like special case must be loaded / restored after setup is run upon reconnect. Otherwise, bad logic, nasty bugs. Correct? I think so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, we got sidetracked on this prior card group name thing, but this is actually important because these are the type of things that can really break your game. The details. So this is actually referring to custom append list instances, and it's referring to their prior card group name and prior meld num. And I was sure these existed, but for whatever reason, I don't actually see this as so it says the item. If a custom append list is in string type of item, so if the item that you're dealing with is a list, not a card, and if the item at index 0 prior card group name, so that refers to the card. Item at 0 prior card group name, that refers to the card. But here, we're not referring to the card. We're referring to the meld. You say for meld in self card group name dict at a particular card group. So this has got to be a meld group name, and then we're accessing a particular meld at item prior meld num. So this is a set of melds because of the colon. This is actually a truncated list of melds. And then from that point on, so this is not referring to a card's prior card group name attribute. This is referring to a list's attribute. But we don't have this as an attribute. At least, like, we don't have it listed. So we say prior card group equals self card group name at item prior card group name. And then we're checking it. But I don't see where we assign it. Let's see, right here. If card is entering self at item. So this is assigning the card prior card group name. Here we go. If custom append list. And then this assigns. Nope, this assigns the card's prior card group name. So I don't understand how this section up here, let's see, right here, for meld in self card group name dict at item dot prior card group name, and the item is a meld, a list at a particular meld num, and this is referring to the meld's prior meld num as well. This would be referring to the meld as well, and so would this. So either this code is bugged as it stands, or I'm just misunderstanding it, or we do have a prior card group name and a prior meld num attribute for custom append list instances, but we don't have the record of this attribute's existence. Does that make sense? I know that's really complicated, but I need to look into this to figure this out. This is going to be important. Important. 99% sure this refers to a meld slash list, but we don't have listed anyway a prior card group name or a prior meld num adder attribute for the custom append list class. So either this code is bugged, or we assign it somewhere, we assign them somewhere, but don't have the attributes recorded in .init or elsewhere. Definitely needs review. Needs a thorough review. And this is some of the most complicated code in my project. I absolutely hate looking at this code. It is such a fucking calculus nightmare. It is very just not easy to deal with. Let me go ahead and add this to things to do. We're gonna have to check that out. I'll put this after we finish populating the list. We'll check that out, and I'll just put whoa, what did I just do? I don't know. Why did it do that? Try this again. Should hit enter. There we go. and this is going to be called custom append list dot py line number 204. Discovered possible bug, definitely at least a recording error concerning .init related to prior card group name and prior meld num. So this is some next level magic sorcery. We don't want to get caught up in that. Okay, so we have 3 more minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and use that time to stage my changes and stuff, because I'm feeling like I'm ready to take a little break. So we're just gonna put 12:15. This was 1 hour and 10 minutes. We'll say 1.25. Throw myself an extra 5 minutes. 13. We continued. Basically, we're just gonna copy this because this is what we did. We continued doing population of this list by going through each file to determine which data points need to be saved. Then we're going to stage and commit these changes. So this is going to be 12:14 to 12:15, and then let's go ahead and continue populating the database. Master save object list part 2. Now we're at the root of the project directory, so now we just need to copy this. Why do I feel like I forgot something? Okay, I know I forgot to put where I stopped at. And we actually stopped right. Not there. We actually stopped right here. So this is line 58 and things to do. At line number 58 and things to do. There we go. Alright, now let's copy. I knew I forgot something. We're in the root of the project directory. We're going to get branch to make sure we're on the correct branch, which we are. We're going to do git add dots to add everything, git commit, paste in that message for our commit, successfully committed. Now we push to the remote. There, it's done. We can close this out. And then we're going to go over to projects, Canasta, copy the little one. Go into backup, delete the old one, and I don't know why I clicked that. I usually just do Control V. Devlog end 5.1. That is the correct devlog entry, so we did it correctly. Now we need to change the date to reflect today's date, which was the last time we did a local backup, and that's going to be it. I'm going to go ahead and take a break. My brain is feeling pretty scrambled right now, so I'm going to come back though. We're going to do another hour, I think, at least. I need some more coffee or something though, because I just, between the cold, the code, and just being tired in general, not really feeling in it to win it at the moment. So I'll be back. Yeah, so good progress though. That was a solid hour, and try to knock the rest of that stuff out the next session, and we'll be done with this list, and then that's like half of the work right there. Creating the list, then we just have to create all the logic to load it in or to save it and all that, which is not going to be so hard. and that is actually the final task, other than a couple other smaller things that need to be done. That's the final feature, but we do have to test it. We do have to add in the menu screen. It's going to be easy stuff though, and we do have a task list of miscellaneous shit. We got to review it. We got to do a lot of testing. So we're not done yet, but we're very close, really close, closer than we've ever been. So